You don't need motivation, you need discipline. Everyone wants to feel like they are in the mood before they move. That's the problem. You wait for energy, inspiration, or some magical spark to do the work. But real players, the ones who build something that lasts, they don't wait. They move even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one's watching. That's the difference. Motivation is a feeling, discipline is a choice. Motivation fades when things get uncomfortable, when life gets inconvenient, when the excitement dies. Discipline is what carries you through the silence. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's the part of you that shows up anyway. You can't build anything meaningful on emotions that change every 5 minutes. You build it on habits, on structure, on a commitment that doesn't break when you're tired. When people ask me how I stay consistent, I tell them I don't rely on motivation. I rely on identity. I don't tell myself I need to be motivated to go to the gym. I tell myself I'm the kind of person who trains no matter what. That's who I am. That's what discipline looks like. It's not about pushing yourself to do something once. It's about becoming the kind of person who does it every day without needing to negotiate with your feelings. Most people overestimate what they can do in one burst of motivation and underestimate what they can do in a year of discipline. They sprint, they burn out, they quit, and then they wonder why they never win. But the people you admire, the ones at the top, they've mastered the boring stuff. They don't wake up every day excited. They wake up trained. They've built systems that don't depend on inspiration. You need to stop chasing highs. Motivation is like sugar. Gives you a quick rush, but it crashes fast. Discipline is protein. It's slow, steady, builds strength, and sustains you. You need to become addicted to the process, not the feeling, because when excitement fades, and it will, what's left is your character. People think success is glamorous. It's not. It's built in the quiet, unsexy moments. When you show up to work and no one claps, when you go to the gym and no one's filming, when you keep promises no one will ever know about. That's where winners are made. That's what Leila Hormozi talks about when she says, you don't need motivation. You need discipline, because it's not about doing it once when you feel good. It's about doing it 1,000 times when you don't. If you only act when it feels right, you'll never get far. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. Discipline creates results, and results create momentum. But it starts with doing the thing when you least want to do it. That's the test. That's where growth happens. You don't grow by doing what's comfortable. You grow by facing resistance. Every time you push through the urge to quit, you build mental muscle. You prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses. That's what separates the average from the elite. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's the willingness to be consistent without applause. You want to change your life? Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation might get you started, but discipline will make you unstoppable. The people who win are not the ones who wake up inspired every day. They're the ones who wake up committed. They've decided that quitting isn't an option. They've made peace with discomfort. They know that showing up is the job. Discipline is freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's true. When you're disciplined, you don't live at the mercy of your moods. You don't waste energy debating whether or not you'll do what you said you would. You just do it. That's where freedom comes from. Structure, consistency, control, the ability to trust yourself because you've proven that your word means something. Motivation says, I'll do it when I feel ready. Discipline says, I'll do it until it's done. And that's the mindset you need if you want to win in business, fitness, or life. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to do it. You need to show up on the days when it sucks, because those are the days that count the most. Everyone wants the rewards, but few are willing to endure the repetition. Success is built on boring consistency. Waking up early, making calls, following up, training, learning, failing, adjusting over and over again. That's discipline. That's how you win. When I started out, I wasn't motivated every day. No one is. But I made a decision. I wasn't going to rely on motivation. I was going to rely on structure. I built routines that forced progress, systems that made success inevitable, and you can do the same. It's not about being inspired, it's about being prepared. You want to know why some people never get anywhere? Because they keep restarting. They get motivated, start strong, burn out, stop, then wait for the next wave of motivation. It's a cycle of temporary effort. The disciplined person doesn't restart, they just continue. They keep building, brick by brick, even when progress feels invisible. You need Redefine success. It's not the big win. It's the ability to keep going after 100 small losses. It's showing up when no one cares, doing the work that no one sees, and believing in a version of yourself that no one has met yet. That's discipline. If you can train yourself to act regardless of how you feel, you'll beat 99% of people, because most people are emotional decision makers. They move when they're happy, they stop when they're sad. But discipline gives you stability. It keeps you moving through every season, every setback, every storm. Leila Hormozi didn't build her empire because she was always motivated. She built it because she was disciplined, because she understood that motivation is fragile, but discipline is a weapon. It's what keeps you grounded when everything else is chaos. So the next time you tell yourself you need motivation, stop. You don't. You need a plan. You need accountability. You need to act even when you don't feel like it. Because discipline doesn't come from doing what's easy, it comes from doing what's necessary. And when you live that way, you stop waiting for permission, you stop waiting for the right time, you stop waiting for the feeling. You just move, you execute, you grow, and eventually you realize that motivation was never the answer. Discipline was. Motivation is temporary, discipline is permanent. It's one of those truths that people don't want to hear because it removes the illusion that success is supposed to feel exciting all the time. Motivation is a spark. It lights you up for a moment, gets you started, makes you feel unstoppable. But it fades. It's emotional, unpredictable, and fragile. It depends on external energy, the right song, the right quote, the right mood. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care about how you feel. It's built from repetition, structure, and the decision to follow through even when you don't want to. Most people live their lives chasing motivation. They wake up waiting for the right time or the right feeling to start doing what they know they need to do. They scroll through motivational videos, hoping for a jolt of energy that will somehow carry them through weeks of hard work. But that never lasts, because the truth is, motivation is emotional fuel, not sustainable energy. It gets you moving, but it can't keep you moving. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline takes over when motivation runs out. It's the bridge between your goals and your results. Discipline is what happens when you make a promise to yourself and keep it every single time. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up when no one's watching, when it's boring, when it's hard, and when your mind starts whispering excuses. Discipline doesn't ask for comfort. It asks for commitment. It's not something you feel. It's something you choose. Every time you choose to follow through on your commitments, you strengthen that muscle. Over time, it becomes who you are, not something you have to force. Motivation gets you to the gym once. Discipline gets you in shape. Motivation gets you to start a business. Discipline keeps it alive when things get tough. Motivation might get you to write one great idea down. Discipline turns it into a finished book. The people who build great things, the ones who actually win long term, are not the ones who were the most motivated. They're the ones who were disciplined enough to keep going after the motivation disappeared. The reason discipline is permanent is because it's not tied to emotion, it's tied to identity. It's a decision to act regardless of circumstances. When you're disciplined, you stop waiting for permission. You don't need inspiration to move, you just move. That's what separates people who dream from people who execute. Motivation is a moment, discipline is a lifestyle. When you understand that, your entire life changes because you stop depending on how you feel and you start depending on what you decide. Identity drives consistency. It's not about what you want to do once in a while. It's about who you believe you are every single day. Most people focus on changing their actions, but they never change the identity that drives those actions. That's why they start strong and fade quickly. You can force yourself to act like a disciplined person for a week, but if deep down you still see yourself as someone who struggles to follow through, you'll eventually fall back into that version. Real change doesn't happen when you try harder. It happens when you decide to become someone different. If you tell yourself you're lazy, inconsistent, or not built for hard work, your brain will find ways to prove that right. Identity creates behavior. You don't rise to the level of your motivation, you fall to the level of your identity. When you believe you're the kind of person who follows through, who shows up, who finishes what they start, you act in alignment with that belief even when it's inconvenient. It becomes automatic. You don't need motivation to do what's normal for you. That's why disciplined people seem unstoppable. They don't think about discipline, they are disciplined. Leila Hormozi talks about this all the time. She doesn't rely on feelings, she relies on identity. She doesn't say, I need to be motivated to work out. She says, I'm the kind of person who trains, period. That mindset removes negotiation. There's no emotional debate, no back and forth. The action is already decided because the identity is clear. And that's the secret to consistency. When your identity is built around doing the work stops feeling optional. Consistency is not about willpower. Willpower fades just like motivation, but when your identity is anchored in discipline, it becomes your default setting. You stop asking, do I feel like it, and start asking, who am I? You don't chase habits, your habits reflect who you are. Every time you show up, you cast a vote for that version of yourself. Every time you keep a promise, you reinforce the identity of someone who can be trusted by yourself. The moment your identity aligns with your goals, consistency stops being a struggle. You don't have to push yourself through resistance because there's no longer a gap between what you do and who you are. Discipline becomes natural, almost effortless, because it's part of your DNA. That's the power of identity. It builds consistency that doesn't depend on emotion, energy, or external validation. It makes you unstoppable because once you are the thing, you no longer need to try to become it. Success is built in silence. It's not built in the noise of validation, attention, or applause. It's built in the quiet hours when no one's watching, when you're grinding through the tasks that don't look impressive, when you're practicing the same skill for the 100th time, when you're showing up without the recognition you think you deserve. That's where real success is born. Most people want the outcome but not the silence. They crave the spotlight, not the solitude. But the truth is, the spotlight only finds you after years of unseen work. We live in a world that glorifies exposure. Everyone wants to post their journey, talk about their grind, prove their progress. But success doesn't happen in public, it happens in private. The people who make it are not broadcasting every move they're building. They're learning, failing, adjusting, and improving while everyone else is chasing likes. Because success is not about showing people what you're doing. It's about doing it whether anyone sees you or not. Leila Hormozi embodies that truth. She didn't build her empire by talking about it. She built it by doing the work behind closed doors every single day. When no one cared, when no one was paying attention, she was building systems, developing skills, and mastering the boring. That's the difference between people who want success and those who earn it. Success demands silence because silence is where focus lives. Distraction dies in the quiet. The silent work is uncomfortable because it's thankless. No one is cheering you on. No one is rewarding you for your effort. But that's where you develop strength. That's where you build trust with yourself. Every time you keep going without attention, you prove that your reason is bigger than recognition. That's what makes you dangerous, because while everyone else needs to be seen to stay consistent, you stay consistent without being seen. The world only sees the result. They don't see the 4 a.m. mornings, the missed weekends, the failed attempts, the lonely progress. They don't see the discipline that happens when the cameras are off, but those are the moments that define your success. You don't rise when people start watching, you rise because you kept working when they didn't. Silence is the foundation. It teaches you to rely on effort, not praise. It keeps you grounded, focused, and hungry. The ones who succeed understand this. They master the quiet before they ever step into the spotlight. Because real success doesn't need to announce itself, it speaks through results. The grind in silence is what earns the noise later. Discipline equals freedom. It sounds backward to most people because they confuse freedom with doing whatever they want. But real freedom isn't about doing what feels good in the moment. It's about having control over your life. Discipline gives you that control. When you're disciplined, you're not a prisoner to your emotions, impulses, or distractions. You make decisions based on what moves you forward, not what's easiest right now. That's real freedom, the ability to trust yourself to do what needs to be done, no matter how you feel. Most people think discipline limits them, but the opposite is true. The person who acts on every emotion is trapped by inconsistency. They start projects they never finish, set goals they never hit, and live in a cycle of frustration because they can't rely on themselves. That's not freedom, that's chaos. Freedom comes from structure. It comes from doing the work when it's time to do it so you can live how you want later. The disciplined person might sacrifice comfort today, but they gain peace tomorrow. They trade temporary pleasure for long-term stability. Leila Hormozi talks about this often. Discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It protects your goals from your weaker moments. It gives you boundaries that keep you aligned with what actually matters, because when you're disciplined, you don't waste time debating whether or not you'll do what you said you would. You just do it. That mental clarity is freedom. There's no anxiety, no overthinking, no guilt from breaking promises to yourself. You live with confidence because your actions match your words. Freedom without discipline is an illusion. If you eat whatever you want, you lose your health. If you spend whatever you want, you lose your security. If you skip every hard thing, you lose your potential. But when you're disciplined, you create options. You can say no because you've earned the right to. You can rest without guilt because your work is done. You can enjoy success because you built it with intention, not luck. Discipline gives you the freedom to live on your own terms. The truth is, freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the result of self-control. Discipline gives you ownership of your time, your energy, and your future. It takes the power away from distractions and emotions and puts it back in your hands. That's why disciplined people look so calm. They're not scrambling to catch up or recover from bad decisions. They're steady, they move with purpose, they know that every choice compounds. When you realize discipline equals freedom, everything changes. You stop fighting the process and start respecting it. You stop wishing for motivation and start building habits that make success inevitable. The disciplined life might look hard from the outside, but it's the only life that leads to real peace because you're not controlled by anything except your own commitment. That's the ultimate freedom. At the end of it all, everything comes back to one truth. Motivation might start the fire, but discipline keeps it burning. Identity makes it consistent, silence makes it real, and freedom is the reward. The people who win in life are not the ones who wait for the right moment. They're the ones who build habits strong enough to move through every moment. Discipline is the foundation of success, the quiet engine behind greatness. When you stop chasing feelings and start living by commitment, you stop living reactively and start leading intentionally. That's when you realize motivation may inspire you, but discipline defines you.